Welcome to Real Film Snobs. I'm Angela Yeager.
And I'm Brian Michael. Today we have a regular episode, but it's special to us because, well, every episode is special to us. And this is an around the world episode, meaning that we stayed home, but we watched movies from around the world.
You don't need to travel right now. You can just watch foreign films.
Exactly. And we chose of all the countries in the world to watch films from France because, well, that's just fish in a barrel. I don't know how to say that in French, but it's totally fish in a barrel. And so all of our films today are from France. We're going to start off with a Jean Vigo film, Zero for Conduct from 1933. This is about four rebellious young boys at a representative French boarding school, and they execute a revolt against their teachers and take over the school. Whatever, that's the plot. What I found really enjoyable about this film is this was taken from his childhood. And unlike Louis Malle, who made one, I hope that was Au revoir l'enfance, which is a movie that has scarred me for the rest of my days. The last shot of that movie is still one of the most heartbreaking things I've ever seen. This is a very joyous and very interesting film, especially when there's wonderful moments where they're done in slow motion. And and of course, there are down pillows that are broken apart, and so we have feathers everywhere, kind of like snow, and it's a very dreamlike quality. And though this movie, it's kind of hard to review in a way because by the time you kind of get your footing in here, it's halfway over. This is only like 45 minutes. And I had to keep looking to make sure this is 45 minutes because I may have just watched it before we started taping, but again, it's a very short film. So it's almost kind of a long short or a short, I don't know, mini movie. But it's very enjoyable and I certainly can recommend this one. I did enjoy this very much.
Yeah, I did too. There's some amazing sequences visually. The scene, especially that blew me away, was the scene with the pillow fight in their room, and he uses the slow motion with the feathers coming out of the pillows and going everywhere until the boys are covered with feathers at the end, and it looks like, gosh, an art piece or something. It's just amazing looking. And this is, of course, based on his own remembrances of boarding school. And so the boys are just really being boys. It's just rebellious youth. It's funny that, to me, it seems very lighthearted. The film was so controversial in France that it was banned until 1945, which is sort of hard to imagine because you're just like, so it's just boys. But I guess they thought it was a statement against the education system in France or against authority or against something. I don't know. But it just, to me, seemed like boys saying, hey, it's nothing we haven't seen in lots of other movies before. But of course, this was 33, so maybe you hadn't then, of rebellious youth.
It's really funny because as soon as they, went into the slow motion, the dreamlike qualities, and then some things were done in reverse, I immediately thought of Cocteau's Beauty and the Beast.
Mm.
And so I do enjoy that dreamlike quality, that kind of nostalgia, which is one of the reasons why I enjoyed Once Upon a Time in Hollywood so much, and you didn't. But yeah, that's certainly you like to see somebody's fingerprint in their film. At that time, I believe his films hadn't been so successful, and so this is kind of his last effort. Or it's a very small budgeted film. So it ended up being somewhat of a success because of its controversy and it kind of kept his career kind of going there from there on. So it does have some class division, which I'm surprised Angela didn't discuss. Really? You're going to leave that to me to do?
Yes, sure, why not?
I don't find that part nearly as interesting as I do the visuals with everybody running around in slow motion with, why are they always, when did they stop not making pillows full of feathers? I don't understand when exactly that happened. Did that always
a lot of people have allergies to goose down.
Yeah.
And you have to kill goose, so.
Well, they're going to get eaten anyway. Well, we'll do English films later. So next film is, let's see, this is Renoir film. So, yeah, very French. I'm going to butcher the name of it. So, the Petite Humane, is that what we're saying it? This is a classic.
That's what you're saying.
Emile Zola's novel, a character, or I should say a person who we are not unfamiliar with on our show, is a tortured train engineer, falls in love with a troubled married woman who has helped her husband commit a murder. This is a fantastic film. I really enjoyed this film. And of course, it's directed by Jean Renoir, but as well as stars Jean Gabin, who we know from Rules of the Game, who's the main character. And he has these psychotic episodes where he just kind of goes crazy for a minute, and who knows what he's going to do. So the entire time, it's a ticking clock that you don't know exactly when this is going to happen. Simone Simon is the love interest who, with her husband, has committed a murder, and then of course they meet and they fall in love, and it's just slowly. I really enjoyed how, I guess Hitchcock was making films at this time, but it's very much a Hitchcock film as it slowly kind of ticks forward, because eventually this is all not going to end well, and at some point they're going to crisscross into one another, or it's going to clash into one another, and eventually when it does, it is quite dramatic and a very satisfying film.
Yeah, I'm so wishing I had seen this movie in the order you did, because I made the mistake. Well, I didn't know, number one. So this movie has been remade a lot. The book itself has been remade a lot. This was the first film version. And so I watched Fritz Lang, fantastic director as well, in the 50s, made a remake of the novel called The Human Desire with Glenn Ford. And it's fantastic. And I saw that before 2 weeks. But before I saw this one, just by pure coincidence, it was part of the Film Noir collection on Criterion Channel, and it was leaving, and I thought, oh, Fritz Lang, I love him, I'll watch it. And I watched it, and I thought, oh my gosh, this is great. And then I watched this one, I'm like, hey, this plot seems familiar. And it's a little different. The ending is different, but there was enough of similarities that I thought, I feel like I've seen this before. So, what I loved about this movie is, of course, the characters and the story and the idea of these layers, like, you think she's kind of leaving her husband for this other guy who may be a good guy, but he's not really such a good guy. I mean, he's really an anti-hero. And so I thought that was really interesting. The Fritz Lang version, of course, brings up the film noir aspects of this movie, which are already here in 1938. So Renoir was really ahead of his time in that way.
Oh, so now what was that one called?
It's called Human Desire.
And it had, did you say Glenn Ford?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think I remember you texting about that, because there were a few of those noirs that he was in that was available on Criterion, and yeah, some of those are.
Yeah, and that one, it's really terrific. And of course, it being Fritz Lang, he wanted to be all realistic, so they shot it at a real train station with the real trains. And Gloria Graham plays the love interest in the American remake, and she's fantastic as sort of the ditzy wife who is like, come hither, and attracts Glenn Ford into her web. She, it's very interesting to see very different, also very good actors do something so different with a character, because Gloria Graham makes the character maybe, I don't know if you'd say more sympathetic, but just more frightened of her husband in a way, I think, than Simone seems playing the female lead in the French version.
Yeah. No, and Glenn Ford is, well, I'm still going on up to that movie, but yeah, they're so easy to watch on Criterion when it's an hour and a half. They're film noir. I mean, you can just do that all day.
Yeah.
I think you have.
I've seen a lot of film noirs recently, but I have to say Renoir's one of those directors that I often don't like his films as much as I wish I did. We've seen a couple that were like, everyone says, The Golden Coach or whatever that one was. And so this one, at least I did enjoy, so.
Yeah, no, I actually enjoyed this one an awful lot, but I have to check out the other one when it comes back on Criterion, because it'll be here soon.
Yeah.
Those movies.
It might be available somewhere else too. You might be able to find it on another streaming service. So, okay, so we'll move on to the next French movie. We're working chronologically here. So Le Petit Soldat is our next film by Brian's favorite filmmaker. I'm being sarcastic. Jean-Luc Godard, a director I like, but he's mixed. I mean, I don't love everything he does. And a director Brian absolutely cannot stand. He's a very experimental, a very controversial director. And this one is about a man who is accused of being a double agent working for the Algerian War. At least that's what the description told me when I looked it up after I watched it, because I'm not sure I would have known all of that was going on. Godard's muse and one-time lover, Anna Karenina, plays the lead character of the love interest, Veronica, who gets involved with this man and likes to, brush her hair a lot while she's talking to him, and while he's contemplating going on to the Algerian War. You know, Godard is a great filmmaker visually, but not so great at portrayals of women. He seems to think women spend most of their time brushing their hair, and I've seen this in more than one film by him, or making cute eyes at guys. Maybe some women spend a lot of time doing that. I don't know any woman that brushes their hair this much, though. It's like he said, when you're not smoking, do something else with your hands, and that should be brushing your hair.
A lot of women, they're either brushing their hair, they're probably washing their hair is what happened. That's why I became a filmmaker. Yeah, I have, my notes here is Jean-Luc Godard, eye roll, and Cassavetes influenced many of my favorite favorites and filmmaking, but they're like watching paint dry or nails on a chalkboard. Angela, which one is which?
Oh, they're totally different. Their films are nothing alike.
Cassavetes is nails on a chalkboard because it's people just screaming at one another. So Godard is just watching paint dry because I get bored out of my mind watching his movies. My next note says, she brushes her hair a lot. And then he mentions classic film, classic music, like a Woody Allen film, but nothing more, as opposed to Woody Allen would have to be an integral part of the film or at least be a part of the score. He just talks about art, kind of, and excuse me, they mention art or mention artists, but they never go into any kind of philosophical conversation to at least be interesting. And yeah, and for the most part, you know, if this was a silent film, which really, honestly, the dialogue didn't do us any good, I would not have known what the heck was going on. And somehow when I read that, yeah, there's an Algerian war and a man and woman from opposite sides fell in love with one another, I went, oh, is that the movie we watched? Oof. Yeah, I appreciate what he's done for the for the art of filmmaking, but I just does nothing for me. I've liked what, 2 of his movies, I think, and liked them. That was about it. And then other than that, it's just like, let's get through these. Are we done now? Has he made? Have we seen all the movies of his we have to watch? Because, yeah, I'm ready. I'm done.
He's made a lot. He's still making movies. He's the only one left. He's the only one of the new wave left.
Wonderful. So happy.
I just watched his last film the other day that came out in 2019, so he's still cranking them out. So we will move on to our next film, which is Danton from 1983. Actually, not by a French director, but it is a French film. It's a director, Andrzej Wajda, who actually is a Polish director who made some films that are really terrific called Man of Iron, and another one, Man of Marble. Was that the other one? There was 2. There was Man of, and there was 2 of them. This one is about the revolutionary leader, Danton, played by Gérard Depardieu. And he is accused of being a conspirator during the reign of terror in France, which was what followed the actual revolution, was the reign of terror by Robespierre. So for those who are familiar with our French history, this movie will make a lot of sense. If you're not that familiar, luckily I did a whole class in college on the terror and the French Revolution, so I knew what was going on. And it was a very exciting period in France. But in this movie, it's mainly guys in stuffy shirts talking in rooms.
Yeah.
They make the terror actually kind of boring, which I didn't think was easy to do. This movie also has a very flat look. Like, it looks like one of those theater made-for-TV looks of the early 80s. And
yeah.
What was that?
Masterpiece theater.
Yeah, and it doesn't look good at all.
To be.
Which is also weird because this director is one, I know he can make movies that look good. I've seen some of his other Polish films, and so I don't know if this is what they gave him a TV budget to work with or it was purposeful. I don't know. But this is such an interesting subject that it's too bad it couldn't have been made more interesting.
Yeah, we watched this together. I think I want to say it was in January, perhaps, before the world crumbled. And you had to hold my hand through this because you're like, oh, this is what's going on. And I'm sitting there going, I have no idea.
They don't do a good job of explaining it for non-French people.
Yeah,
people who didn't study history.
You know, and so you have to, I mean, come on, you got to throw me a line here a little bit. I barely know my history, and that's not even accurate. So, I mean, yeah. So to learn French history was like, wait.
Well, and the Reign of Terror is a really interesting period because you had the revolution, in France, which was huge. We're going to overthrow, the royalty. We're going to off with their heads. We're going to have democracy. And it was a big deal. The leaders of the democratic movement then started turning on each other to gain more power and became just as bad as the people they replaced, some of them like Robespierre, and then started this mass execution where every single person was accused of being, you know, a conspirator in some ways, or you couldn't disagree with anybody. So they decided that democracy was too fragile in France and that's how, yeah, go ahead.
At what point does Russell Crowe and Hugh Jackman sing? Is that the same time period? No, no.
No.
Was that
So,
Marie Antoinette, Les Miserables? I'm done. I have no idea. Yeah, you know, but yeah, the movie was a lot of guys sitting around in courtrooms or big, large boardrooms having conversations. Nobody was Amadeus playing a tune. It was pretty, it was very dry.
yeah.
It reminded me of what, when I was a kid, what PBS was during the day. It was very, very dry and very, very boring. And look at the costumes. And that was pretty much just it. This was made it on the list because it was a movie that Roger Ebert gave 4 stars for, and I'm lost on that. But you know, maybe well, no, because you studied it as well. So I don't know why he did give it 4 stars.
Yeah, no, I knew about this period in history, but it didn't make the movie any better as a movie. I love Gerard Depardieu. He's a great actor, but even him, they didn't give him a lot to do here. So it's too bad.
So then we're going to move on chronologically to the following year, 1984. I didn't even know you put this in chronological order. I don't know. I'm just glad you got to introduce the last one. This is from 1984, Le Argente, whatever.
Les Argent.
Les Argent, thank you. A forged $500 franc, which is their currency, note is passed from person to person until carelessness leads to tragedy. Fascinating story. This is directed by Robert Bresson, who did the Donkey movie, as I always refer to my friends that try to get them to see it, Le Hazard Balthazar, as well as A Man Escaped, Diary of a Country Priest, Pickpocket, which I saw as a double feature with Peeping Tom, but that's Pressburger and Powell, but I always get those two flipped, that they're the same filmmaker. Just one of the things that I do in my funny little head. So this is brilliantly directed, and this movie should have and could have been a silent film. No doubt. I think Chaplin and Keaton would have appreciated it because he had like maybe 5 title cards, maybe, or dialogue cards, I think, throughout it. As we follow someone passing a bad note to another business, who then you know, track down who gave it to them, and then there's people who perjure themselves and lie in court. People get prosecuted wrongfully. Other people get away with it. There's bribes been made over all of this greed and cowardice that we see because of money and because of wanting something, or maybe getting away with something. We get to see the worst of it. The first half of the film, or maybe 3/4 of the film, takes place in town in the 80s. And it's kind of I even mentioned to you, because we were watching over text, I was like, ooh, it's not the best looking film. That 80s look, especially in Europe, is not the best. But once they go into the country, then I was like, oh, now we're in France. Here we go. Then it becomes spectacular and beautiful. You know, just having natural wood walls and some dirt on the floor just makes me really happy. I guess that just works a little bit better there. But this film really just had me captivated. The acting is very interesting because some people come across a little more flat. But I think sometimes it's a style choice of this director that he does that.
Yeah, he does that in a lot of his films. He likes to use non-professionals too.
And I don't mind that. It's kind of hypnotic. It's kind of a Herzog type situation there where it kind of pulls you in a little bit further, because I don't know, you kind of lean into it. But I really enjoyed just how the one simple little thing by 2 kids just has these repercussions. I mean, you talk about the flap of the butterfly effect itself. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it has this ripple effect. This what seems like maybe an innocent act by 2 boys, and then, you know, really, and when the one character in particular, Ivan, that we follow the whole movie, it ends up leading to quite a, you know, tragic set of circumstances for him. And I think, you know, Bresson was always considered one of the great, you know, moralists of the cinema. We saw that in House of the Donkey movie, as you like to call it, Balthazar, and in Pickpocket. And he's very interested in the moral actions of people and how that impacts others around them as well as themselves, and also how society kind of plays into that. So there's the very interesting sequence at the end of this movie where he is in the country and he meets his family. And the woman who runs the house, I believe she's, you know, maybe the you know, she knows what he's done, and she still brings him in, and she's kind to him, and she gives him chores to do around the house. And it's not like she's a saintly character necessarily. She's just very matter of fact about, like, this is what we do. We help other people. And you know, the way that Bresson shoots this, it's not overhyped or over dramatized, which I really also appreciate. His style is very subdued, maybe too subdued for some people, but I really love it.
I would say a little too subdued, because I really would have appreciated just a little bit more of the emotion of that person, of the situation. I don't want to give anything away towards the end of the movie, just to see that person's reaction of what was going to be happening to them. I thought was very interesting. And much like with Pickpocket, we see a lot of close-up on hands. And I thought that was really fascinating, to watching the note and people, their hands and their movements. You know, he's very aware of that. I always like that person's relationship with those around them and
Mm-hmm.
in their environment. There is definitely, you know, this movie, if it was remade, there are so many things they would have concentrated. Okay, so if Hollywood remakes this movie, which God forbid they ever did, but if they did, that bank heist would be way more elaborate, and we would actually get to see a lot more of it than just possibly the driver. And then the ending, of course, certainly we would have seen, yeah, so you're already shaking your head, we would have seen a lot more, certainly, of that. And it's interesting how that sensationalism of the storytelling, what would be the focus in terms of trying it to be a mass appeal, as opposed to the moral story and the more personal story, trying to warm people's hearts, as opposed to getting their hearts racing. I think it's rather.
Mm-hmm. Oh, he's definitely not trying to go for racing, but I don't think any of his films have, except for, well, A Man Escaped. I think, you know, they dig themselves out of prison. That one's pretty powerful, but it's another one like this where very little dialogue.
Yeah.
He wasn't big on the dialogue. It's all visual.
Yeah, we talked about Tarkovsky in the last episode. This one definitely, Bresson is another filmmaker. Here's another filmmaker that, you know, if you're not familiar with his films, like Balthazar, donkey movie, as well as A Man Escaped, Diary of a Country Priest, and Pickpocket, which I just think is just absolutely
amazing. Diary of a Country Priest I also love. I own that one on the Criterion edition. It's fantastic.
Watched it, or is it still in plastic?
I've seen it before. Have I watched it since I got it?
Yeah, exactly. You know, when you buy a movie, you at least gotta watch it once to make sure it plays, Angela, because then you gotta return it.
It's Criterion. They'll do right by me. I'm a charter subscriber.
Makes me wonder, with the movies I buy you, did you watch them?
Which ones?
The ones I bought you.
I've watched a lot of the ones you bought me.
Okay, yeah, but I mean, they don't just.
But you bought me a lot of movies over the years, so.
So that's not.
Do we get to see BB on screen this episode? Can you bring her on?
Well, she's watching the door now. BB. No, she's watching the window.
You can't pretend you have a treat?
I can't, no. My dog's smarter than that. She won't do anything like that. No, she was over here, and I wasn't gonna get her over by the screen, but BB, no, I can't do, like, I have a treat. She's not stupid. My dog is way smarter than me. So, no. No, but what about your cats? Is the squonk there?
No, they're not in the room right now because they were yowling, so I kicked them out.
Oh, okay. So we have a little bit of time here, Angela. Now, you've been watching an awful lot of films. Is there anything else that you watched recently that you enjoyed? I haven't got the chance to see yet.
Gosh, well, you know, I mentioned I watched through all those film noirs. I'm trying to think what else I've watched that I really liked recently. It's starting to all blur together. Well, I watched Old Guard yesterday because we reviewed it for the show. So that was a recent movie I watched. I watched a French movie that wasn't very good. Oh, I've been watching these. There's a bunch of films on Criterion Channel that are not Criterion-like by this director, Herschel Gordon Lewis, who did what the films are called splatter movies. He was the creator of these movies. They're really gory, cheeseball horror movies.
1,000 Maniacs, or
his first film was called Blood Feast, and then he went on to do such classics as The Gore Girls and many others. So I watched Blood Feast the other night. Hey, it's only like 70 minutes. And I watched another horror film, The Last House on the Left by Wes Craven, which I'd never seen before, which was not very good. I'd never seen it.
Oh, that's such a great movie. That is
It's not very good. Have you watched it recently? It's really dated and it's not scary.
oh, I thought it was terrifying. The score when they stab her. Oh gosh, that was awful. So this just goes to prove that if they put a Michael Bay movie on Criterion Channel, you're gonna watch it because you're like, well, it was Criterion. I had to not
Yes,
go.
I trust their curating. But Herschel Gordon Lewis, Sean Baker, one of my favorite filmmakers, actually introduces him and he's a fan. So I'm not gonna watch all, there's like 8 of them on there. I'm not gonna watch all of them because they're all sort of the same. It's like naked girls getting stabbed. I mean, I don't need to see a lot of that, but I wanted to check out one since they were considered influential. I gotta be a well-rounded film snob, right?
So I just bought His Girl Friday on digital, so I watched some of that again, of course, because I can watch that anytime I feel blue. I watch the opening; it always makes me happy. Bringing Up Baby, I did my annual watching of that, so I knocked that one out. I just got Taxi Driver on Blu-ray and digital, so I'll be. I probably shouldn't watch that right now. I may wait until next summer to watch it.
Yeah, maybe next summer. His Girl Friday is on Criterion, Blu-ray. Why are you watching it on digital?
Well, because it came with. And so, and because also taking a movie and putting it in the player, it's just so much easier to click it and it's in 4K. So
Oh God, you're sounding like a
that movie really puts me in a really bad space. It's not a good time when I watch that movie. I got to watch like Bringing a Baby like right after it or something because that's not a fun time. And then I've got some movies for you. What else do I have on that? Oh, of course, then I have the Jaws 4K, which is, I mean, that's my annual viewing for me as well. But watching that was just absolutely amazing and beautiful to watch. And I can always just watch that movie over and over again. It's now crept its way into my top 10. My top 10 is now shuffled a bit. So that's interesting. So we got a minute left. So let's talk about what we watched on the show. Ooh, that's too far. So Zero for Conduct, we both can recommend. It's 40 minutes. She can knock that one out real easy. I gotta mention all these movies again. The Petite Humane. Uh, let's see. Did I like that one? I can recommend that one easily. 4 stars for me. 3.5 for you.
3.5 for me. And I probably would have given it 4 stars if I hadn't watched the American remake. And I love Fritz Lang, though. He's one of my favorite filmmakers.
I know. Le Petit Soldat, which I
No, I can't recommend it either.
and will not have to ever watch again. It's another Godard film I'm done with. Danton, we both cannot recommend, but apparently it's a fascinating history. And then L'Argente is one that we both can recommend or check out. Robert Bresson's films, certainly, of course. Check out our previous episodes. Check out our previous episodes on realfilmstars.com. Subscribe on YouTube. Follow us on Twitter. Listen to us on KMUZ. Watch us on CCTV as well as Cam and Scan. Thank our amazing sponsors, our wonderful one-man crew, our amazing co-host, and then, of course, you for watching. Have a great day and great movie.